Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jay Parak from Netrix, one of the practice directors here. Today's solution spotlight is Cireson Portal for Configuration Manager. Our guest is Michael Adanovich from Cireson. He's the solution architect manager, and he'll go through the demonstration today. I run the enterprise computing and mobility practice, and part of that is the end user computing, where we help customers with operating system migrations, desktops management, encryption, profile management, and overall end user experience and device management.
Of the solution here. And just a couple of things. We refer to the Portal for Configuration Manager here at Cireson as Portal CMP. So throughout the webinar, the demo, if you hear me mention Portal or CMP, I'm still referring to the overall solution. And then, as Jay had mentioned, if I would greatly appreciate it if you can hold off your questions until the end. If you have a question as going through something, feel free to put it immediately in the IM window. And again, at the end of the session, I'll go ahead and answer that. If I start doing it in between the webinar or the demo, I easily get sidetracked and go off into a tangent. So I don't want to do that to you guys. So a little bit about Cireson. And I promise this is not a death by PowerPoint. I do have a few slides. I'll go through them as quickly as possible, and then we'll jump right into the demo there. So we started in 2012, and we are we're headquartered in San Diego, California. We have offices in the UK as well as Australia. We have over 1,200 customers in 63 countries. We have 3 million plus licensed users. One of the things that's really nice about the Cireson solutions, if you notice there, the renewal rate on the right-hand side of the screen, we're pretty proud of this fact that our renewal rate is 99%. And that speaks, I think, volumes of what our customers believe in the product, the solution, Cireson as a whole, and the vision that we provide. So what does Cireson do? We provide software solutions to enhance System Center from an end user perspective as well as a IT and analyst perspective. And we have strong focus within the stack on the Service Manager product as well as the Configuration Manager product. From a Service Manager perspective, we provide a Service Manager solution to enhance Service Manager. And I'm not going to talk about that. I just want to keep it high level because I know you guys want to jump into the Portal for Configuration Manager. From an asset management perspective, an asset management solution that is also layers on top of Service Manager, and that's leveraging the ConfigMan inventory data, which, as you know, is pulling in just raw data. So we actually normalize that and provide a robust asset management solution for your software and your hardware assets, including the contractual and the financial data behind that. From a configuration manager perspective and the products that we provide there, we actually have about 5 products, and it's funny because of those 5 products, 4 of them are free. If you are unaware of that, go out to cireson.com and download our free tools. You can use them long-term on a permanent basis. They're not time-bound. They're the Ticker app, which is an app that allows you to send notifications to end-user devices, and you can target those via the collections, and you can schedule when you want these announcements to go out. What's really cool is, let's say that you're going to do a software deployment. You want to deploy a software. You want to send a notification out to those devices or users. They'll receive that notification. When they click that notification, And it just goes to their desktop. They don't have to have any apps open or anything of that nature. That's also logged, so you have an audit as to when they receive that message. There's also the User Device Affinity tool. It's a tool that allows you to view, edit, and manage user-to-device relationships. There's a user-centric tool, which is used to identify which apps are ready for user-centric software delivery with ConfigMan. Those that are not, you could create those requirements. And then a remote manage tool, which is really cool. It allows you to connect up to the devices and work with that device without end user interaction. Some of those things could be to run diagnostics, check services, stop those services, processes, view them, kill those processes, rebuild the WMI, view the WMI, or I should say verify the WMI. I could keep going on and on and on. Tons of great stuff. If you haven't downloaded those tools, again, they're free. Play with them. You'll love them. And then, of course, the recently released Cireson Portal for Configuration Manager, which was just released about 3 weeks ago. And I'll talk about that and demo that here shortly. As far as the awards and the recognitions go, if you want to find out more about that, go out to cireson.com. I want to just bring up 2 points on this slide. This is just a quick slide here. These are a few of our existing customers today. One point that I want to bring here is that Cireson, with our solutions, covers all industries. We are not unique to a particular business or a specific industry, whether it be banking, retail, automotive, manufacturing, government, education, so forth and so on. We cover all spectrums of business. Second point that I want to call out here is information technology. On the right-hand side, in the center of the slide there, you'll notice that Microsoft and Dell, specifically Microsoft, is an existing Cireson customer. They are using our solutions throughout a number of divisions within Microsoft, which is kind of ironic. But anyhow, I just wanted to call that out. And now let's talk about the Configuration Manager portal, or the portal for Configuration Manager, which is why everyone is here today. So, Configuration Manager has been out for decades, and shortly after it came out, there was a cry by the Configuration Manager community to provide a web-based interface for that. And unfortunately, that never came to fruition. So Cireson, listening to the community, its customers, has developed a portal for Configuration Manager, which is based obviously on HTML5, meaning that it is available anywhere, anytime. So no longer do you need to RDP to a device that has the thick console installed, or leverage a third-party remote access solution to do what you need to do. Inventory data visibility. The portal, much like Resource Explorer, I would assume most of you on this call are very familiar with Resource Explorer. It's a great tool, provides a vast wealth of information, although can be cumbersome to navigate through. So what Cireson has done within our portal is provided that capability, but provide really the common fields that most persons need to view and check. So that capability is within the solution. External tool integration, providing you the ability to right-click devices or even users and leveraging third-party tools such as ping, remote desktop, integrate those with free Cireson community apps such as remote manage or user device affinity setting. You have that capability as well. And I'll demo all of this for you as well. I promise I only have a couple more slides to go. Software and OSD management and deployment. Well, what does that mean? That actually means that you have the ability through the Cireson portal to create applications, packages, task sequences, and deployments with our solution. You do have that ability now. MDT integration and deployment, if you have invested time with setting up MDT, you can continue to leverage that time investment and integrate MDT with the portal and be able to leverage that. I want to mention that and bring that up. I don't have that set up in my demo environment, so obviously I'm not going to be able to demo that, but be aware that that capability is there and available to you if you so choose. Deployment monitoring status. This is nice. When you do a deployment, you can quickly look to see the status of what is going on with that deployment versus having to pull through reports and other means to find out the status of that. Templates for software, OSD, and deployments. Now this is really nice. This is a feature and a capability that we provide in addition to the native config man. Anyone who is creating packages and deployments today, each organization has their standards as to the options and settings for each of those packages and deployments and things of that nature. And you need to make certain that as you're doing these, you have this document and you're checking to configure each of these packages and so forth. Well, with our solution, you have the ability to create templates and have those preset configurations, options, and settings so that when you are creating a package or an application, a deployment, you then select the template, the appropriate template, and your predefined configurations will be applied toward that application, package, or deployment. So really it's a way to enforce standards throughout the organization and reduce or eliminate that human error factor. We do have a role-based administration, which is really nice because now you could easily apply our RBAC security toward all of the templates, the deployments, the packages, what devices people have access to, what users they have access to, so forth and so on. It's a very simple and easy to use RBAC security. For those of you that have invested time in setting up RBAC within Configuration Manager today, that investment is not lost. If you feel that that's adequate and it's working for you, great. We actually integrate and will leverage the ConfigMan RBAC if you have set that up. We will honor that. And then in addition, you'd still have to set some of our RBAC for the things that are not native to ConfigMan, such as templates, as well as restricting a number of different things, and I'll talk more about that during the demo. And then, of course, there's built-in report viewer. Really, really nice. I would assume that everyone here has gone through and navigated through, I think it's like 475, maybe 500 reports out of the box with Configuration Manager. Well, now you could actually link those common reports that you access to our portal, and those will be, you'll be able to view those reports right through our portal. And what's really nice is that you could also, again, use our RBAC security, link in these reports, and then apply permissions to them to say who has access to view these reports. So very, very nice to have. And this is my last slide before I get to the demo here. Like I say, I don't want to do death by PowerPoint. The portal for Configuration Manager is not designed to replace the out-of-the-box console. The Configuration Manager admin will still do a number of tasks in the out-of-the-box console, whether that be setting up distribution points, setting up additional sites, and so forth and so on. The tool is really designed to extend the configuration manager capabilities to others within IT to make them productive and efficient, and really providing the services that they need to deliver to their end users in a quick and efficient manner. This is just kind of my stab at maybe the different support groups within IT and how they can leverage the different functions that they would need of Configuration Manager through our portal here. Now, every environment is going to be different, and you're probably formulating in your head what functions you would need to give in a limited capacity to your end users, or I'm sorry, to your IT staff. And actually my demo environment is set up somewhat toward this, kind of persona users, if you would. So I'm going to go ahead and demo our desktop support team as well as our service desk support team. So with that said, I'm going to jump right into the demo here. So let me get to my demo environment. And what I'm going to do right out of the gate, I'm going to log in as the administrator of our portal. I want to kind of give you a 10,000 foot view, or 10,000 foot view of the solution. And then I'll jump into the different persona users and how simple it is. So when I first log in, this is going to bring me to this page here. It's kind of a blank page, actually. And we kind of reserve this because we are allowing you to create your own dashboards. We are at version 1 right now. Later in the year, you will have the capability to add your own dashboards. So do keep that in mind. Here on the left-hand side is the navigation pane. So if I click here, I can see all the computers that are in the environment here. And this is going to synchronize into our database from Configuration Manager. So it'll always be up to date. I can click on the users here. I can see all the users in the environment as well. And the software that has been created either in Configuration Manager as well as the software that has been created within our portal. And any software that's created in our portal is obviously going to sync back to Configuration Manager and be distributed as normal through the distribution points and so forth. All the task sequences, I obviously don't have any task sequences in my environment. The deployments icon, which is going to show me all of the deployment statuses and what's going on with the actual deployments. Again, I don't have any deployments here going on, as well as the reports. I can here link all the reports that I want to our portal. So if I wanted to, I could go ahead and link any Configuration Manager report, the native reports, which it's going to list all of those reports, as you can see, and can be quite difficult to navigate to. So let's just say I want to pull up a report. I'm just going to grab any report here, and I could easily now, that report is now here, and I can easily view that report or permissions. So if I want to view a report, I could just click on View Report here, and it's going to go out, and it's going to actually leverage the ConfigMan SQL reporting services, and it's going to pull up that report. And I still have the same capabilities where I can drill down on my information, as well as if I want to, I could export these out to any format that I need. So I have that capability as well. From a event perspective or audit perspective, we are providing a detailed log. so that this way you do have audit capabilities, so I can see what is going on with the environment, who has deployed software, who has done, whether deleted packages, deployed software, who has deployed it, when they deployed it, to whom they deployed it to. So I still have that audit capability. If I click on the new task tray down here in the lower left-hand corner, I have the ability to add computers or pre-register computers. Maybe I'm doing a deployment and I want to pre-register the computers, or I want to import computers in from a file that maybe came in from a vendor. I can actually do a software deployment. I can create software applications and packages, as well as software and OSD task sequences as well. Now, I have a drop-down list in the upper right-hand corner underneath my user ID. I also have the ability to now configure and set the options that I want for the solution. I'm not going to get into this detail. I'll jump back to this in a little bit more into the showing you how to do the RBAC security, how to create your security groups and your persona users, and you'll see how intuitive and how simple it is to use here. Just real quick, I want to go back to computers. From the computers perspective, the content list here is going to show either the computers, the users, or the software. We call this the content list. And of course, yes, you have the ability to go ahead and then filter on any of these as well, if you so choose. So you do have filtering capabilities. You can also create views if you so choose to simplify finding the devices, the user, the software that you would like. And then obviously there's the ability to find computers based on users, or find users based on computers. And down here, down on the bottom here, is what we call our content detail. And actually I'll scroll up a little bit here. And in the content detail, I can see what is going on with this particular device. In this case, I can see the client health status, its last policy and discovery updates. I can see additional information here on the configuration manager, such as site code, default gateway, so forth. I can see if this device is OSD ready, what deployments have transpired or been deployed to this device, what software is on this device. So I do have the ability to acquire some detail there. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to log in as one of my persona users. Actually, I'm going to log in to the portal as a help desk or service desk staff. Now, they have similar look and feel, but if you noticed, I have restricted them. I've only given them computers, users, and software. And if I go down to the lower left-hand side, I have taken the ability for them to create or even deploy any software. If I click on the upper right-hand corner on the user ID, I have removed all of the setting options from them. They absolutely have no setting options. So what I've done here is really just limited them to just the capabilities that my organization wants to provide to Tier 1. And as a matter of fact, I don't even want them to deploy software. I can if I choose, but I've decided with this persona user not to. So there's a couple of things here. Let's say that a user calls in and says that they need a software package applied. Well, the help desk is going to take that call and say, I need a new software package installed, or I want this software application. And I can find out if in fact they have that software installed. But in order for me to do that, I need to ask, well, what device are you on? Well, to be honest with you, the end user is not going to know what their device name is. But I do know what the end user's name is. So I'm going to go ahead, in this case it's Don. So Don H actually. I'm going to look up Don H, and I'm going to see, okay, this is the primary device that Don H has been assigned to. So now to Don's comment, let's check out the health of this. Let's see here who the primary user is. I've got a lot of primary users here, but this is Don is assigned to this. I can go to add or remove programs, and I can see if that software is on this device, and I don't see the software that's here. Maybe I want to go a little further. Even though I can't deploy the software, let me check the inventory summary or resource explorer on this device. And let's check out a couple of things here. Let's see if the device is even capable of handling the software. So from here I could gather information, its last scan date, its last AV run, definition, domain, and so forth and so on. I can see what hardware. Does this device have enough disk space? Does it have enough memory? Is it the proper OS? I can also see again what software is on this device. I can see what's installed, what software is available. I can see what services are running on this device and what packages have been deployed to this particular device. I could click on the network and it's going to give me some networking information. Click on the client and it's going to provide me what software updates have been applied to this device, what software updates are available for this device, as well as the collections that are available or that this device is assigned to. Now, maybe I want to say, you know what, before I pass this on, maybe I want to run some external tools. Let's see if this device is up and running. I know it is, but I'm going to execute some external tools. So we're going to just do a quick ping to this just to validate that it is up and running. Maybe I want to go a little bit further and I want to launch the Cireson Remote Manage tool. So it's going to go out there and it's going to execute and connect up to this device. And actually this device is not up and running. Nope. Let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull up a different device here. So give me a second here. Let's go to this device here. Let's pull up external tools. Let's do a remote manage. We're going to go ahead and connect up to this device. So it's connected up and now I can do what I need to do. I can do a number of different client actions here. Initiate a hardware inventory, a update scan and evaluation. I can repair the config-man client. I can uninstall it, reset machine policy. I can remove it from a collection. I can add it to a collection. If I so choose, again, I can see what software is installed on this, what software is available. I can see, again, the updates that are available for this. I can see what processes are running. And again, if I want to, I could kill any of these processes. I can restart or stop services. If I click on Other here, I can further manage the device, reboot it, shut it down, verify, repair, or reset WMI. As you can see, I've got a number of things that I can do. I could look in the computer management, user management, event viewer of that device. And again, this is without interacting with the end user in any shape, way, or form. I could even remote desktop or remote control into that device if I so choose. So here, and there's one thing that I want to point out. So right now, I've just gone through and realized that this user don't have the software. I want to deploy that software, but I don't have the rights. So I'll need to escalate this to someone in the organization that does have that capability to do that. But so just hold that thought here. So if I go to users here, again, it's the same look and feel. If I click on a particular user, again, I can see additional information in the content detail here. I can see their primary devices that are assigned to them. I can see what deployments have been deployed to them. In my case, there's none. But maybe I want to set the user device affinity setting for this particular user here. So if they're assigned to 2 devices, well, maybe they have 3 device. Maybe this is not the right device for them. It should have never been assigned to them, and maybe I want to assign a different device. Notice there are, in my demo environment, when I logged in as an administrator, I had a lot more devices. What I've done is I've created what we call a deployment scope, where I'm restricting what devices they have access to. Well, this is help desk. So obviously I'm not going to give them access to the server devices. I'm just going to give them access to the workstation devices. But I could even further define that and say, you know what, you only manage the devices in North America. So I could limit them and restrict them to what devices they have access to. Very easy to define what devices they have access to. And then if I want, I could then create views within their scope to say, well, only show me the users within my scope based on a view. It could be New York, or it could be geographical, or whatever you deem appropriate to create your views in your organization. So in this case, I could say, well, just give me the users for New York. And it's only 1 user in the New York office. Or give me the devices just in the New York location. In this case, I've got only 1 device in this location. And again, this is within my scope. There could be 1,000 devices in that location, but I have restricted that user to only a certain set of devices here. And the same holds true for software. There is a lot of software. However, I restrict them to only the software that I want to provide them the view or access to. And again, if I click on the software, I can see what its information is on that. Its distribution point, targeted resources, as well as deployments. So I think that this Athomber needs to escalate this software package for Don to the desktop application team. So I'm going to log in here now as my desktop application person. And listen, if anyone has questions, please feel free to post those in the IM window. Like I say, Jay and I have carved out some Q&A time, so we'll definitely get to those questions at the end here. So notice, now I'm logged in as eGruber. eGruber is my desktop person. Now eGruber has really the same functionality as, or the same look and feel, and has the computers, the users, and the software functionality, but they also have access to task sequences. They can see what's going on with the deployments, and I've also provided them the ability to view reports. They don't have access to events, so they can't see any audit information. I did provide them the ability, the new tray, and I could even through granularity restrict them to say that they can only do deployments if I so choose. And I'll show you the security in a moment. So here I could say, all right, well, I want the ability to add again users. I can do deploy, or not users, but computers. I could create deployments, create software and application packages, as well as task sequences here. If I click up here, I don't have the setup capability. But now if I come here back to computers, because I know that Don here needs an application installed. Well, notice my deployment scope, I have additional devices. I don't have all of the devices that the config manager has, but he has narrowed my scope down to only certain devices. And again, I still have the same views, but I've been scoped down to a few more devices. I know that Don here needs a software package. I don't know what device Don is on, so I'm going to go ahead and do a search here for Don's devices. I want to deploy this package. So I can right click and I can deploy a software. So it's going to go through and say, well, what software do I have access to and what software do you want to deploy? And in this case, maybe I want to deploy Zoom 3. So we're going to add Zoom 3. And now I can select a collection, but I see that if the collection that I wanted was available, I could just click that collection. If I don't know what collection it should go to, I can automatically create a collection on the fly. And it will create a collection with the name of the software package. So do keep that in mind. But in my case, let's just say I want to deploy it to this collection here. Now I want to say, okay, well, this is the device that it's going to be deployed to. And if I want, I can add additional devices to deploy this to. But notice, I have restricted this person here to only deploy to a maximum of 2 objects for any deployment. I want to restrict them because I want to prevent an accidental deployment to too many devices or throughout the enterprise. So I have the ability to restrict them. Now, if they have different deployment scopes, they can select the deployment scope that they want, or they can browse and query, or they could query for that device, or they could import it from a file. So let's say that I don't want this here, so we're just going to remove that. And now I want to deploy this. Now here is where I need to set the options. I need to set my options as to how I want this to be deployed, the user experience, as well as the distribution points and so forth. So I now need to reference a document as to the standards for my organization to provide a deployment here. So instead of trying to figure that out, I can just select a template that I have access to in security. It will now configure my package or my deployment based on my template. Now the send wake up packet is there. From a scheduling perspective, this is going to be as soon as possible. My user experience, I want the software installation and system restart, and then my distribution point settings and so forth. I can initiate a client policy download as well to expedite the deployment there. I'm going to cancel here because I don't have any test boxes in my demo environment. These are actually my servers and so forth. So I'm going to cancel here. If I want to go to deploy, when I click Create Deploy, it'll actually bring up that same deployment window that you just saw. It's just multiple ways of triggering the deployment window. But let's say that I need to create an application. Let's say that someone has just called in and they need a new application. A department just acquired a software. We need to package that up. So I could actually create a software package or application. So I could go ahead here and actually create a package. So I want to actually upload the file, and I can do a BAT, an EXE, an MSI, it doesn't matter. So it's going ahead and it's pulling in the information. From the MSI, it's going to extract the manufacturer, the package name, the version, and now I'll need to go ahead and configure my package. I'll need to set up the distribution point, the data access configurations, the distribution data, as well as the program information. And again, I'm going to have to go through all the requirements, figure out the platform, the environment and how this program is to run, so forth and so on. But if I go back to the general here, all I need to do is select the template as to how this package has to be created. So I'm going to select the template that I have access to. Because again, you could create the templates and then set security who has access and who does not. So now I'm going to load the template. And now if I go to package here, I have my data source, data access, and distribution settings all set. I've got my persistent content in the client cache. I've got my distribution point selected. I have all my settings here in the distribution settings, data access. If I go to programs, all I need to do is go ahead and then add my MSI. And here is my MSI, and it'll go ahead and then put in all of my appropriate switches. Oop. Let's see here. What happened? Did I not do something right here? So let's select this. It's selected. Click OK. There we go. I must have hit cancel. So it's going to fill out the appropriate command line for me. If I go to requirements, notice that any platform is no longer selected because I specified this in my template. So now if I scroll up a little bit, I can see that this is only for the Windows 10 clients. Obviously, I could select more. I now have my environment settings and other settings now all pre-configured for me. So now if I try to create this package, it's going to bark at me because we do have required fields that when you create your package, not only do you need your install, but you also have to configure the uninstall. So if I go to the drop down, I'll need to select the uninstall, and now I'll select my MSI. Oops, I hit cancel. Can you believe it? My mouse is not moving where I want it to. Let's do this again. See if we can get this right. Bingo, there it is. So I could go ahead and create this new package here. I'll go ahead and create it. It's not going to cause any problems here. So I now have created a new package. I think I'll have a duplicate because I left it at Zoom. So and we'll give it a second here, and this will show up here. So if I want to, we'll let that sit. If I want to, I could create a task sequence, and I can create a software task sequence where I can deploy multiple packages or softwares within the task sequence, or I want to do an OSD task sequence. Let's see what I have set here. I may not have a template. I don't think I have a template. I don't have a template, but I could create a template if I so choose, and then create my task name, and I can, we'll just call it my task, my OSD task. And I could go ahead and then configure how I want this task sequence to go through. And obviously I don't have an image here, so I'm not going to be able to create this task sequence. But I'll go through the motions here where now I can obviously fill out the information that I need, such as the username, organization, so forth and so on, as well as to join a domain or not to join the domain, and the configuration manager client information, the migration process, any updates, and then the software to include in that particular task sequence here. So very simple to, as you can see, to create the packages, the task sequences to do software deployments. It's very intuitive, and especially if you're going to create a package based on a template. So I want to go back and really kind of get a little bit more into the nuts and the bolts here. So I'm going to actually log back in as my administrator. And as you saw, I have my different groups and accounts set up. So if I go here, one of the things that I wanted to kind of go through is more or less the RBAC security and how simple and straightforward it is. So from a security perspective, the first step really that you want to do is create your persona users or support groups, if you would. In my case, if you want to create a different group or who has access to what, this is my service desk team. It's pretty self-explanatory. Create the domain and what is the AD group that the service desk analysts belong to. So if I want to create a new group, I'll just say my new group. And let's say that they belong to this domain and they have this AD group. I've just created my new group. Very simple to create my groups. Now, by the way, I can not only just do a group, but if you notice here, actually you could point it to a user as well, not just a group, but you can do a user. Go to the security rights. You'll love how simple this is. Okay, so you go to the security group. What security group do we want to configure? Well, here's my new one that I just created, but I want to show you how easy it is here. Let's do the service desk. You've already saw that user and what capabilities they had. And I only gave them, that support group, only the browse capabilities to computers, users, and software. And that's it. If I want to give them reports, it's just a checkbox. Then they have reports. It's pretty simple. If I wanted to give them the new capability, not only could I give them new, but maybe I want to give them software deployment. That's all I would need to do, is I could give them the software deployment icon, and they would have the new tray, and in that new tray, all they would have would be software deployment, and they'd also have that right-click capability to deploy software. We're going to go ahead and uncheck that. And then the same thing with the settings. What settings do I want them to have access to? And then my global settings for this security group down on the bottom here. And obviously you've got view, create, modify, delete, so forth and so on. Now, notice here I have no options set for them as to allowing them to deploy to AD groups, to servers. I can limit how many software objects they can deploy per deployment, where if I don't want them to deploy 2 or 3 softwares to a device, I could limit them and say, well, you know what? You can only deploy to one. You can only deploy one software package at a time, and I don't want you to deploy to more than one device at any point in time. If I wanted that functionality, I would just check it and then set it. Very, very simple to do. I'm not going to save these permissions. Now I want to go to maybe my desktop team. You had seen them and you've seen what access they have already. Again, they had computers, users, software, and then they had additional functionality. They even had the new capability as well. But I did not give them any options to settings. They have none. But I am allowing them to deploy software, but no more than 2 software per deployment, and they can only deploy to a max of 2 resources per deployment. Now this option here is kind of nice. Let's say that I didn't have a restriction for them. Let's say that they had carte blanche. They could deploy to anyone they want, 1,000 devices in one shot. Well, you know what? If they're going to do that, maybe I want to just give them a warning to let them know, hey, if I select this, and they're going to deploy to more than 100 resources in this deployment. in this example here, they would get a notice saying, hey, you're going to deploy to over 100 devices. Is this truly what you want? So they'll be prompted. Or maybe they don't have a restriction, but maybe you want to say, hey, if it's more than 10, give them a pop-up warning. So very simple, intuitive. Now here is where I can set my deployment scopes, where I could say, you know what, this here is the service desk team or help desk team. I want to restrict them as to what computers and users they have access to. So I could go to, for example, here, edit, and this here is my users here. I have restricted the users to only the users that start with a D. It's a demo environment, so you get the gist. But I could easily add filters and what fields or attributes do I want to leverage from the end users to determine how I want to scope this particular user down. So let's say maybe I want to do it by domain, by SID, whatever the case may be. I can restrict them as to what user they can deploy to. And then once I've created my scope, I click apply, and I've created my deployment scope. And then the same holds true for computers. I want to, and actually I think, okay, here we go. So I have restricted this particular support group down to just 2 devices. But maybe I want to change things up a little bit. Maybe I want more than name. Maybe I want operating system. Maybe I want domain. Whatever the case. Maybe I want it based on an OU. I've got that granularity, and then once I do that, I can then further define how I want to set that up. And then once I've set that up, maybe I want to change this from an and to an or, and I want to do all kinds of things. Again, I apply my filter. Once I've done that, then I just go to permissions and say, okay, who am I going to scope down with this? What security group am I going to assign this scope to? So I can easily just say, well, I want to deploy this to these particular groups. It's just a quick check to the security groups that you want to provide access to. So I can easily go ahead and set that up accordingly. And when I create my scopes, I can create computer and user scopes. Very simple to do here. Now, if I go to service settings here, or better yet, I want you to hold that thought. Let's go to the views. As I said before, I could create views and assign views to individuals. Well, you remember I had a deployment scope set for them. Then I can further that and create a view. So within that view, I have that same filtering capability, the same granularity, and I could create a view for them. Maybe I want to create a view of all the workstations just in the Chicago location. Once I create that view, again, I can just click on permissions and set who's using this view and just apply the appropriate setting there. Now, I can create these views, again, for users, for software, for computers. I have that capability there to easily create those views. Another thing that I want to show you is if I go to the configuration manager here, and here is where I have my configuration manager settings. Here I'm saying who I have I'm connecting to for the config.man database, and if I want to leverage the RBAC security within Configuration Manager that I may have invested time in to set up, we can leverage that integration or that RBAC if you've, again, invested that time. It's just a simple checkbox. And here, report services. Now, if I click on templates, this here is where I can create my templates. So I've got my package templates, application templates, OSD, and then my deployment templates. So let's say that I want to create a package template. and I've got, I'm going to have to delete some here. I'll just say this is a cool package template. It's pretty self-explanatory here. I'm going to go ahead and click next, and again I'm going to set how I want my template and the settings that I want for my template, and just pre-configure everything to my liking. Click next, and I can set all of my requirements. Maybe I just want it for the XP boxes and for Windows XP here. Maybe I want 100 megs of disk space, or better yet, maybe 100 gigs. And I'm going to go ahead and continue to configure my settings here. I think everyone here gets the gist. So I could go ahead, and now I have created my template. I can right click and say, okay, who has access to this template? Well, I only want to give access to the desktop support team, and I don't want them to modify this, delete it, or manage it. I just want them to be able to view it, to apply it when they create their packages. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward here. And then the same holds true with the OS deployment settings, where I can set up my OSD templates. I can, for software settings, here is where I'm actually configuring here where I am saving my software. Because what happens is that when we're creating a package, we need kind of an interim dumping ground for the files. So that's where you would configure the software source files, and then obviously your languages and so forth. So if I go to services, this here is where I can define how often I am synchronizing my information or pulling information from Configuration Manager. So I can pull my groups. My users are every 20 minutes. My computers are every 10 minutes. The software is every 24 hours. I could change this to whatever I deem appropriate. And the reason that we're syncing, because like I say, we have a separate database, and I'm going to kind of go off into a tangent here, because you're going to probably ask this question anyway, so I'm going to interject, cut you off at the pass if you would. The way that our portal is designed is that we sit side by side with Configuration Manager. We are not intertwining with Configuration Manager. So in other words, we're not extending the schema of Config Man. We're not playing with or messing with the database or any of the files. We don't want to do that, because if you try to contact Microsoft support, if you're having an issue, you would have an unsupported product. So what we do is sit next to Configuration Manager, and we are actually caching and reading Configuration Manager, storing it in our database, and then you're actually accessing the Cireson database when and only then when information needs to be shared with Configuration Manager is that information put into the Configuration Manager database. This here is where you would set to do your synchronization. So hopefully that puts things into a better perspective for you there. And I have already covered the security settings. So I think that's all I wanted to show you from a demo perspective. So I am going to jump back to my slide deck. I've got a couple of slides here real quick. Okay. What do you need for our solution? Talk more about the infrastructure and so forth. What you need is obviously a working Configuration Manager environment. Obviously, you want an environment that is not only working, but more importantly, on a version of Configuration Manager that is a supported version of Configuration Manager. which today is 2012 SP2, 2012 R2 SP1, and obviously current branch. And I think Jay put a tweet out, I think it was last week, stating that 1602 is no longer supported by Microsoft. So therefore, our solution is not supported in a 1602. If it's not supported by Configuration Manager and Microsoft, it's not supported by Cireson. If it's supported by Microsoft, our product is supported with that as well. So I do want to kind of point that out. And then secondly, obviously, it's a web-based solution. So we are going to require a Windows server running IIS. Pretty self-explanatory. One thing I will tell you is that, yes, we do run side-by-side. In your production environment, you're more than likely going to want to spin up a separate VM and set that up. If you have a small site or a customer that has a small site, let's say it's a single server, and there are a number of customers out there, we do support our portal on the actual site server. Remember, we're not layering on top. So if you need to remove our solution, then you just remove our IIS website, our service, and the database, and you're good to go. And you are still in full support with Microsoft. We do obviously require SQL, as I mentioned. We're storing the information within the in our database, and again, it's going to have to be a supported version of SQL as well. With that said, I think we are on time. Actually, I think I'm 5 minutes early. So at this point, we will jump to Q&A for any questions that people have.
Hey, Mike. So we do have questions from Shaji. Can we create a role-based administration to control if the help desk can add one computer at a time to a collection?
You want to do role-based administration where you can add one device
At a time.
to a collection at a time. One device to a collection at a time. When you there's a couple of things. When you are doing your software deployment, you can add that device or user to that collection. And when you set up your RBAC security, you are actually restricting that, okay, you can only do it to one device. So let me actually pop back here.
Yeah, you know what? You don't have to go over that, Mike. I think I typed in that question way before you went over that section.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because you saw in the security where you
Yep.
can restrict in the security rates.
Yep, correct.
Yep. It's just a simple checkbox. And then what do you want to limit them to? Perfect.
Cool.
Perfect. Yep.
And then,
Great question, Saji.
And can we create a customized message banners for each deployment?
Can you do a custom banner through the Ticker app? I think you can. You can do for each deployment. Absolutely. And that is through our Configuration Manager Ticker app, which you don't even need to purchase the CMP for that. If you want that capability today, again, go out to Cireson.com, and at the top of the website, you'll see a tab, Products. Click on that, and then there'll be, from the drop-down, Free Community Apps. Click on there, and then you can download, or you can register to pull down the ConfigMan Ticker app.
Yeah, and Shaji, the new Config Manager 1702 also allows you to customize the messages for OSD test sequences as well.
Okay. And this is more on the software updates, not through the application deployment.
That's
on
more for
software
OSD
update.
right now, yeah.
Okay, I got you.
Yep. Yeah, the Ticker app that Mike is referring to is a free application from Cireson that we could actually send alerts and messages to the desktop saying, hey, one hour there's a maintenance going on, things like that.
Okay, got it. Perfect.
Are permissions unique to the portal, or do they have rights back to SCCM client?
Are they unique to the portal? They are. Depends how you configure it. So if I go to Configuration Manager and I do not have this checked. This right here. If I do not have this checked, then the configurations are all unique to the RBAC is unique to the portal. So in other words, if I want to keep it, I don't want to integrate with ConfigMan, they're all unique to the portal. So if I am an IT user that have access to the portal, and then I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to go use the out-of-the-box console, they will have absolutely no rights or privileges in any shape, way, or form. If you're obviously if you're integrating and using the RBAC security within ConfigMan, and then you integrate it, then we will honor that. So then that whatever rights you give them in the native solution, they'll have in both. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yep, and then pricing, at least high level, how pricing works here.
That's a great question. Pricing is really, I'm the technical guy. If you really want to find out more about the pricing, I recommend that you work through Jay Parek, and he can definitely provide pricing and some additional information for you. But at a very high level, it is currently based on devices, the number of devices at this point in time.
Yep, I just put my email address in the IM window, so if anybody wants pricing or a quote, just send me an email and I'll work through Cireson to get you that pricing.
Okay, Mike, this is Shaji again. I do have one more question. I had to step away when I came back. You were going over that, so I might have missed part of that demo. So basically, say if we have two help desk people in Illinois, and we only want them to control Illinois computers. No, we don't want them to see, say, California computers. We only want them to see Illinois computers. Now, I know you were going over that, filters and everything when I came back. So do you mind showing that to me again, how to control that?
Absolutely.
Or if you can control it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, all you would do is go to security settings. And then what you would do is set up a deployment scope.
Okay.
And let's say that I want to create a deployment scope called computer scope.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to change this real quick because I know I won't have access to my... There we go. So let's say that I want to create a filter. I want to say Illinois devices.
Okay.
And let's say I want to create a filter. Oops, cut it out. My mouse is getting goofy. Hold on, Saji. There we go. Let's say I want to create a filter. And let's say that I want, maybe that the device name, you guys have like maybe it starts with Chicago, or maybe it starts with Illinois. Mm-hmm. You could go ahead then and say, yep, I want all the devices that start with Illinois. And I want to apply this filter. And in this case, I'm just going to say that filter, let's say that it's you get the gist. So I could definitely create it. And let's say that I click OK. So I've just created it, and it's only going to give me those devices. So here's my Illinois devices. Well, that's great. I've created my deployment scope. But who am I going to assign this deployment scope? Right. So I could say, OK, well, it's the service desk. Maybe I have a couple of service desks. Maybe I have a service desk analyst -Illinois, service desk analyst -New York. And I would just go ahead and apply that. Who has access to this? So now, if I go to the general settings and I go to views, I've got the standard view here of the computers, and I can click on permissions. Well, who has access to that? Well, I've given it to everybody. But because of the fact that I have scoped them down, they're only going to see what is in their scope. In addition to the view. So I could take that as, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Yep.
Yep. Perfect. It's pretty straightforward, as you can see. It's pretty intuitive.
Yeah.
Yep. Other questions, Jay or Saji?
That's it in the IM window. Anybody else on the phone? The mic has been unmuted for everybody. You might have to unmute yourself, though. Nope, doesn't look like it. So I did put my email address in the IM window. I will send out information post this call as well, including data sheets and the link to the Cireson website to get more information from Cireson directly if you wish to do so. I want to thank everybody for joining us on this Solution Spotlight, spotlighting Cireson's CM portal. And look out for an invitation for later this month for another Solution Spotlight from Netrix as well. Thank you, everybody, for joining, and have a good rest of the week. Thank you so much.
Jay, thank you for having us, and thank you for all for attending. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.